was a skin burn. So we are now asking all parents, please do not allow your children to go and get tea without being there supervised. It's fine for them to have tea, but you must be with them. We want to avoid as many accidents as possible. Um, Alyeska has just made a lot of the announcements I was going to make. We do have a competition. Last year we had a competition for the children and for the 18-year-olds as well, with the theme Asma al-Husna. This year, the Syed is talking about Fluoridine, and so we thought it was apt to have a kids competition talking about that. So the entries are due by Sunday, and inshallah the prizes and the awards will be given out on Tuesday. Ladies, I ask, and anyone, and the men as well, if you don't need a chair, please give it up for somebody that does need a chair. If you do, obviously, please use one. But we need to avoid having too much congestion on the sides with too many chairs when we don't need them. Alhamdulillah, we have a really great space here. We've got 3 organizations collaborating in Manchester. We love seeing this, and we love seeing you guys. But to make this happen, it does take some funding. And we need to ask you to dig deep into your pockets, whatever you can give. If you want to donate or sponsor in the name of your marhumin, please come and speak to me, Raza, Alyeska, any of the volunteers, Musa, and we can arrange that for you. The Syed will recite the marhumin names during the salah, in between the salah and at the start of his majlis. So please help us, dig deep. There are little kids going around donating. You can donate via the website, elif.org.uk/RAM24. There's QR codes, there's posters everywhere. Just scan. Even if you haven't got a chance now, do it later. But this is the month to give. This is the month to support your brothers and sisters. And as you can see, we have a highly atmospheric electric atmosphere. So please give generously. If there are any children registered for for the Kids Club 5 to 10-year-olds, if you want to queue up by the door, if you haven't registered your children, you can register. The QR code will come up now, and we will take the children to the club. I just want to say the kids, I know we don't see the kids in the Kids Club and what they're up to, and inshallah I'll share some photographs, but yesterday Sister Aima had them playing with Play-Doh, but she had them learning about God consciousness through Play-Doh, and they built layers of the earth, and they cut through, and it was incredible for them to see the layers of the earth, but connecting it to Allah. So inshallah you get to see some more stuff, the good stuff that the kids are doing as well in Kids Club, keeping them entertained. I'll hand it back to Alyeska now. Thank you. Salawat.
Another salawat. So I don't know if you saw that, brothers and sisters, but there is a donation target of £21,000. We are £6,000 the way there, which is not very good, but we only do have like 3 nights left. So please allow us to reach that target and help us. The QR code's there, and obviously the URL is also there. I'd now like to invite a brother from the Mainstay Foundation to talk about the Mainstay Foundation. So if we can welcome him with a very loud salawat.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's with a humble heart and immense gratitude that I stand before you all tonight on behalf of the Mainstay Foundation. On these special nights, I pray all your du'as are accepted, and I request that you keep me in your prayers too. As we come together today, let us take a moment to think about the difficult challenges our world is going through. Families are being forced from their homes, children are unable to attend school, and hospitals are struggling to cope. There are conflicts tearing apart communities, poverty is widespread, and many people are not getting the education and healthcare they deserve. In these tough times, it's our responsibility to be a source of hope. The Mainstay Foundation stands firm on 3 different pillars, which I'll go through right now. Pillar number 1 is community development. Through our humanitarian aid initiatives, we have provided food baskets to over 1 million beneficiaries. We have made safe, clean water accessible to over 657,000 people and facilitated over 115 life-saving surgeries. The second pillar is strengthening faith, and we try and help as many centers and organizations as possible in the US and in Europe, providing them with grants for Shahr Ramadan as well as Muharram, so they can run their programs and carry on the name of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. We have recently started a grant system where we provide centers with financial support to either acquire a new center or to develop their existing one. And the third and final pillar is fostering education. Now, education is not a privilege. It's a fundamental right. And here at the Mainstay Foundation, we strive to make quality education accessible to all. Since our inception, we have sponsored the dreams of over 37,000 students, varying from kindergarten all the way to university, paving the way for a brighter future. These numbers are not just statistics. They are stories of resilience, of lives touched and transformed from North America to Europe, India to East Africa and Iraq. Our efforts resonate with the heartbeat of humanity. If I could kindly request brother to play the video for you all. It's just a minute long.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. Wa ma adraka ma laylatul qadr. Laylatul qadr khairum min alfi syahr. Tanazzalul malaikatu warruhu fiha bi'izni rabbihim min kulli amr. Salamun hiya hatta matla'il fajr.
For just £3.50, you can gift a copy of the Holy Quran to young students and community members of Tanzania. Let's share the divine word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with all of these lovely aspiring students.
So as you can all see, this is one of 7 different projects we fundraise during the holy month of Ramadan. And this specifically really resonates with yesterday, day before, and the next couple nights. It's the Quran distribution that takes place in East Africa, where we gift a personal copy of the Holy Quran to aspiring madrasa students for just £3.50. Today, I urge you, brothers and sisters, to join hands with us in this blessed month of Ramadan and contribute whatever it is you can to allow us to aid as many of these families in need as possible. There will be a small display just outside as you exit where you can come by, learn more about the different projects and initiatives we're fundraising for this Ramadan, and ask me as many questions as you'd like. And I'd like to end with a saying by the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he says that the best charity is done during this holy month. And let's also remember that during these next few nights, our rewards are multiplied 1,000 times. So let's all come together and play our part. I thank you all for giving me your time today. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salawat. Thank you, Brother Hussein, for the talk on Mainstay Foundation. Who also got a lot of things going on as well here. You know, Muslim convention. I've actually been there the past 2 years. It's really fun. Would recommend everyone for everyone to go. Now I'd like to kickstart the program by inviting Brother Ja'far Jasim to come recite some Quran, so we can welcome him with the loudest of your salawats.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فاذكروني أذكركم واشكروا لي ولا تكفرون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا استعينوا بالصبر والصلاة إن الله مع الصابرين. ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات، بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون. ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين. وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على رسول الله وآله الأطهار على رسول الله أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد
Salawat. I know I say this a lot, but that was truly a genuinely beautiful recitation. Can I have another loud salawat? Thank you, Brother Ja'far, for the beautiful recitation. I'd now like to invite Brother Syed Al-Hakim to come give some spoken words. So if we can welcome him with the loudest of your salawats.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Part 1. Just before the sunrise, Ali in sujood closed his eyes. Oh, the eyes of Ali, what did they see? Oh, the eyes of Ali, what did they see? They have seen the rocks thrown upon the head as the crowds they mocked Prophet Muhammad. The treatment by Quraysh, what they did and said. The Prophet's own uncle, we curse Abu Lahab. They have seen the sheets of the Prophet's bed. When they reached for swords, you were there instead. They saw all Khaybar's crowds, the allegiance they swore. And then they saw betrayal when they made you number 4. Your eyes, they saw the last time the Prophet breathed. Dying in your arms won't be the last you grieved. They saw the body washed, buried in the ground, whilst the others they in Saqifa were found. They saw the flames surround the blackness of the smoke, the door as it was pushed, and the ribs as they broke. And as they broke the rib, you looked at Muhsin's crib. As his soul would go, his mothers would follow. The light inside your eyes, you saw it dim away. Fatima Zahra, as she passed away, you saw the secret place that she was buried. All the suffering that she had carried. You saw your followers, how they were all harmed, from Malik al-Ashtar to Maytham at-Ammar. And your Khilafah, with battles it was marred. Jamal to Siffin, your reign was battle scarred. O Ali, rest your eyes, there is much more to come. Your family's suffering has only just begun. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Salawat. Thank you, Brother Syed, for the truly emotional spoken words. I'd now like to invite the Syed to come and deliver his lecture. The Syed has spent 5 years in Hawza Ilmi in Qom. He studied history at Oxford. He's currently studying psychology at King's. Currently studying in the Hawza Ilmi at Najaf. Currently teaching theology at the Hawza in Najaf. Has taught theology at the Hawza in London. Has lectured internationally. Has founded the Thaqalain Institute in Oxford. And has led prayers at the Ahlul Bayt Center in Oxford as well. So if we could welcome him with the loudest of your salawats.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق الأجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا حبيبنا حبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله أما بعد فقد قال الله في كتابه المبين أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها صلوات على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد. The human soul, brothers and sisters, it's constantly at war. When we look at the human soul and how many parts comprise it, I would say 2 would be the best division that we have. And when we look at how this division actually takes place, it will give us a better understanding for today's discussion. Looking at the surah I recited at the beginning of the khutbah, I want to ask you firstly and primarily, what's the significance of the oaths being taken here? We see oaths being taken at many times in the Quran, correct? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing upon the sun, swearing upon the moon, swearing upon anything else that may be within inside His creation. We see this at many points in the Quran. For example, if we want to make a significant point, we say by Allah, wallahi, correct? If it's very serious, wallahi billahi, even added tillahi for good measure. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this particular surah, in the Holy Quran, how many oaths does He take? In total, if we count the amount of oaths Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken, this is the most at any point in the Quran. At any point in the Quran, the most oaths that have been taken are in Surah Shams. He swore upon the moon, he swore upon the sun, he swore upon the day, and he swore upon the night. Correct? He swore upon a vast array of things. However, the conclusion of these oaths, we would say, is something that is very interesting. What can be so important, brothers and sisters, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing 7 times upon the veracity of this fact? What is it? When someone swears 7 times, and not just any somebody, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we need to now start taking some real consideration in regards to what is it that's being sworn upon. Correct? For example, I might swear as an individual who is fallible on something that's not majorly important. If there's some land or if there's a dispute, I swear upon Allah that this did not happen. However, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes an oath, this is where everyone gets quiet. And this is where we start reading the Quran and we start to understand what these 2 components of the soul truly are. So to understand this, when we read the tafsir, what's interesting is that the final oath is وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا. Correct? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears upon the nafs, the soul, we can say. However, the question is this: what's the distinction between this oath and all the oaths that came before it? What's the difference between the soul and the sun and the moon and the day and the night and the heavens and the earth? What's the distinction? What's the difference? And what's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala trying to teach us here? So when we look at the beginning of the surah, we see the polarities, correct? We see وَالشَّمْسِ وَالضُّحَاهَا وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا. For the shams, we have the polarity that is the moon, correct? When we move on to the next ayah, which is ayah number 3, what's being stated to us here? What's being stated to us here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now continuing to swearing upon His creation. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears upon the sky, in the next ayah He swears upon the earth. In the next ayah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, when we move forward with this notion, we see very clearly, when He swears upon the day, there is a swearing upon the night. So we can see an automatic opposite oath being taken here. Up until we get to وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا. Right? 6 of the 7 oaths are taken. All of them in pairs. Then we get to the 7th oath. And when we get to the 7th oath, we see that this has come in isolation. And when we see it's come in isolation, of course, we see that it's the nafs. So when we say وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا, what's the significance of this coming in isolation? And what's the significance of all of the ayats coming before in pairs? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not write A'udhu Billah like myself, for example, in a haphazard manner, without any meaning, without any explanation. So there must be some sort of falsafa, there must be some sort of understanding, and there must be some sort of lesson behind this. When we understand the lesson behind this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, the same way that there are 2 components that are night and day, the same way there are 2 components that is the heaven and the earth, the same way that there are 2 components that is the sun and the moon, is the same way I have bestowed in your soul an ability to do right and an ability to do wrong. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this surah and in this ayah is teaching us, I have given you this polarity. The same way that the sun is the opposite of the moon and the heaven is the opposite of the earth and the day is the opposite of the night, I have given you this ability to differentiate between what is right and what is wrong. Understanding this notion now and moving forward, when we see the human soul is divided into 2 major components, we see that there is one component that's taking us to the heavens, correct? And there is one component that is dragging us back down to earth. And this is what we would define, brothers and sisters, that is bringing our mawdu' for today as the jihad and akbar. So moving on with our series of the Furu' ad-Din, alhamdulillah, we covered salah and we covered siyam as well. So inshallah today is the turn of hajj and jihad. Tomorrow inshallah khums and zakat. Then we will be culminating on tawalla tabarra and inshallah amr bima'ruf and nahi anil munkar. However, bringing today's discussion back into play, when we speak about jihad and when we speak about hajj, first of all, what I don't want this to be is just 2 separate discussions, one on hajj, one on jihad, and we call it a day. What's the link between these 2 and how can we actually learn and benefit from it? So the point being made was this: when we look upon one part of our soul, it's driving us up to higher than the malaik. When we look at another point of our soul, we say it's drawing us back down to earth. So when we look at the shaitan that's drawing us back down to earth, and the shaitan that's bringing us down to these carnal desires, and the shaitan that is the biggest hindrance for us in this jihad that we try to complete and perfect on a day-to-day basis, how much blame can we actually give to the shaitan? Is my question for you. How much blame can we actually give him? I'm not acquitting him of anything, a'udhu billah. However, quite the contrary, I want us rather to understand and have a more robust definition in regards to what shaitan actually is. That's the question. What is shaitan? When I pose this question most of the time, and usually the response I get is, shaitan is the jinn who was disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and as a result of his disobedience, he was then cast out for an eternity in the hellfire. So when we understand this definition of shaitan, I come to understand that our assumption is partially incorrect. How so? Shaitan is not a noun, brothers and sisters. Shaitan is an adjective. And when we look at the root of shaitan, what it actually goes back to, what does it go back to? It's an adjective used to describe something or someone that is mischievous. So shaitan, now putting it in the qab of Arabic grammar, is something or someone who is mischievous to the root. So now that Iblis has taken the name of shaitan, we say, yes, he is one of the shayateen. However, he is not the one and only shaitan that we have. Upon analysis of the Quran, we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to a jama primarily, shayateen. So where are these extra shayateen coming from? Many people would say, okay, we have Iblis and we have his cohort. We have Iblis and we have the jinnah with him. However, on further analysis on the Holy Quran, brothers and sisters, we would see that the answer to many of the questions that we have is within inside this instance. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about shaitan, of course he is talking about the jinnah. But in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala very specifically states that there are shayateen from the ins and there are shayateen from the jinn. So when we look at the aspect of shaitan and when we look at the aspect of being mischievous, brothers and sisters, there comes a point in time where we need to take responsibility. There comes a point in time where we need to say, yes, we do repel the outer evil. However, what's more powerful than the outer evil, brothers and sisters? The evil that we have within inside us. When we look at the nafs al-ammara, when we look at the aspect of the self, this is a shaitan far more powerful than anything Iblis can do. Iblis has given us his justification in the Holy Quran itself. What has he stated? When it comes to Yawm al-Qiyamah, I will go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and I will state, I had no power over these individuals. The only thing I could do was whisper, and any downfall that came was a detriment to themselves, and they were fully in charge of this. So what am I getting at here, brothers and sisters? The point I'm getting at is this. When we strive for this tazkiyah that I've mentioned over the past few nights, when we strive for this purification, when we strive for this cleanliness, and we say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, of course we are asking for protection from an external evil. Of course we're asking for protection from an external devil. But most importantly, we are asking for a purification of the inner evil that we have within inside us. So this is the point in time where we take responsibility. And this is the point in time we say, for example, in Shahr Ramadan, the famous tradition states that shaitan or Iblis is in prison. He's in prison Shahr Ramadan. Then why are the dhunub still occurring? The dhunub are still occurring, brothers and sisters, because we have that shaitan within inside us. So now we need to strive to purify that nafs al-ammar that drives us to bad. And after we do that purification, we can truly move towards the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. We continue with our mawdu'. Our analysis was as such. When we speak about the furu'id-din and we speak about ibadat and we speak about worship, brothers and sisters, I said that there are two components to this, right? هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن, as the Quran states. There is the inner essence and there is the outer form. There is the zahir and there is the batin. There is the seen and there is the unseen. So we went through what the unseen aspects of salah may be. And we went through the aspects of what the unseen aspects of siyam may be. However, today when we specifically look at hajj and we specifically look at jihad, what are we supposed to understand from looking at these unseen aspects? We understand that the seen aspects are something that is very robust, correct? Someone whose salah is driving them to heaven and someone whose salah is driving them to hell, on the zahir value they have exactly the same salah, yes or no? The exact same salah. When we look at the physical form, the exact same salah is there. So what's distinguishing the salah of these two individuals? What's distinguishing the siyam of these two individuals? The distinguishing factor is simply the batin. So the purpose of this exercise is simply for us to reconnect to that batin, so we understand, of course, the physical form is of impeccable importance. However, it's only ever going to make sense when we reconnect it back to the asl itself. So when we move on to this juncture of our discussion, when we first look at Hajj and then after that look at Jihad, we see that we have a very interesting tradition, very interesting tradition. I thought about this for weeks when I first came across it. From Imam Kadhim, salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Where if we as a human ask the question, have you prayed salah? After you finish the salah, what are you going to say? I've prayed the salah, I've completed the salah. Yes? It is tamam at this point, completed. So when a human at this point, we say that the salah is finished, we are talking about this on a zahiri basis or on a batini basis? On an entirely zahiri basis, correct? So this tradition from the Imam really drives this point home, where he says, it is very possible for someone's salah to be half accepted, someone's salah to be 1/4 accepted, or someone's salah to be 1/16 accepted. So when we see the physical form, we need to now dispel this notion of productivity, right? Where we think that it's product-based. We finished the salah and we've called it a day. It's within inside the salah that we understand that the batin behind it is giving us growth. It's within inside the siyam that we see that the batin within inside it is giving us growth. It's not simply, oh, I've done my fast for today, I'm done. It's what you do within inside that fast that allows it to be accepted. As the Imam just mentioned, it's possible you complete the salah. So as far as we're concerned, it's done. However, the Imam is saying it's possible only 50%, 40%, 30% of that was actually accepted. And do bear in mind, I'm not talking about this from a fiqh perspective, right? When you finish salah, you finish salah. That's it. However, alongside fiqh, we understand that there are many akhlaqi components to bear into consideration. Alongside the jurisprudential points, we understand that there are many batini points to take into consideration. So for example, when we finish a fast, as long as we haven't eaten, and as long as we haven't drank, and as long as we haven't smoked, and observed all of the zahiri rules, what do we say? We finished our fast. We don't pay the kafara, correct? However, I ask you, why do we have tradition from the Ma'sumin that states ghiba and backbiting breaks the fast? Why do we have a tradition like this? We know we're not talking about the zahiri fast, because in no tawdih al-masail, in no book of instructions would you say that backbiting, you now need to give the kafara. So we see here now that the physical fast is completed. The physical fast is paid and done for. However, the spiritual fast and the batin and the true meaning and value of the fast that we want to derive is going to be annihilated if we participate in backbiting. So now we see that there is a multi-dimensional aspect of ibadah. And driving this home, we understand that yes, there is the zahir. However, again, time and time again, I reiterate the very niche and simple point. That through the zahir, we understand the batin. And within inside the batin, we understand the true depth to the matter. We now move on to Hajj. We have done salah, we have done siyam, and now we move on to Hajj. What is it about Hajj, this pilgrimage that we go on every year, that we participate in, that we need to gain from? Of course, we all know the basic actions and we all know the basic a'mal. We wear the ihram, correct? We do the salah, we do the tawaf, we do the main actions. However, what is the essence of each of these actions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to teach us? What is the essence of these acts of ibadah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to reiterate? And again, as I said, the entirety of the growth is within inside the unseen, because the seen is something that's apparent. And for example, the salah of someone who is going to heaven and salah of someone who is going to hell is going to look exactly the same. So on the seen basis, it's a given. This needs to be correct. However, when we look to the ghaib and we look to the unseen, we now see here that there is incredible and infinite room for growth. We have a tradition by Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Where he talks about the importance of Hajj. He says that by Allah, an individual who forgets about the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not look upon you with His mercy. So now when we look upon the importance of Hajj itself, that's very much a given. However, what warrants this importance and what warrants this stance and what do we actually need to take away from this act of ibadah that the Ma'sumin are trying to teach us? We understand religion and very much Hajj backwards, correct? And again, from the first Imam, we have a very important tradition. And this tradition he states very eloquently. He says, as if Islam is a lamb fur coat that is put on inside out. He said the way that we often practice religion is that if you have a lamb fur coat, right, where the fur is on the inside and the leather is on the outside, Amir al-Mu'mineen is saying as if you've got that coat, you've got it inside out and you're wearing it the other way around. So you're wearing the coat, you're fulfilling its zahiri purpose. However, the true value and the beauty of the matter is now negated entirely. So looking at the religion of Islam, we honestly have now treated it like an inverse lamb fur coat. The entire beauty of it, the entire meaning of it, the entire aspect behind it, we have now negated because it's simply now an act of superficiality. It's an act of the zahir and it's an act of ritualization. However, we move forward. What is the purpose of going to Mecca? What's the purpose of it? What does this represent, rather? That's a more apt question. What does this symbolize? What does it symbolize, going to Mecca? We know the purpose of it is tranquility and gaining proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what's the representation of the act of going to Hajj? Why did this have to be distinct from the acts of Salah and Siyam? What does it mean? What does it symbolize? And what are we actually supposed to take away when one embarks upon the journey of Hajj? What we're supposed to understand from this is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the pilgrimage and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Hajj as a role play, as a reenactment, as an understanding for what we are going to do on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the Hajj as an understanding of what an individual do when they return back to their Lord. So what Hajj is a movement towards Allah. And what Hajj is a movement towards perfection and the truth itself. So when we look at, for example, the Kaaba as a central point, we see very clearly that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to move towards Him. He doesn't need a house, correct? We need it. We need a center of focus. So the representation and the symbolism of an individual going on Hajj, an individual going on Umrah, is as if an individual has passed away and they are moving towards their Lord. And if you look at the individual juz'iyat of what the Hajj entails, you would see this is making more and more sense. Mathalan, when we are told to go on Umrah and when we are told to go on Hajj, what's the first thing we need to do? Absolve all your debts and apologize to everyone. Ask for their forgiveness, correct? When we are about to pass away, brothers and sisters, what are the two things that we need to do? We need to absolve all of our debts and we need to make sure we ask forgiveness from everyone, correct? So we understand that this is a journey of death. However, what we need to understand is this is very much a journey of rebirth. What form of rebirth are we trying to understand here? We'll get to that inshallah in a few minutes. So as mentioned, Hajj represents our return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our movement to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un cycle. And that being said, on Yawm al-Qiyamah, when we are buried, with what libas are we in the ground with? We are in a kafan. And what color is the kafan? Brothers and sisters, the kafan is white entirely. So when an individual wears the ihram to go to Hajj or Umrah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding you again that what you are embarking upon now is a form of death. And what you are embarking upon now is a form of rebirth as well. So what form does that actually take? We'll get to in a few minutes, but do bear in mind the symbolism of this journey and the symbolism of Umrah and the symbolism of Hajj is entirely this. That the bodies are left but the souls move on and that everyone is one now. On Yawm al-Qiyamah, everyone is equal in the eyes of Allah, correct? Apart from the a'mal that we have done. When we go to Umrah, when we go to Hajj, there is no understanding of class, there is no understanding of race, there is no understanding of status. The same way when you go to Umrah, everyone is the same way on Yawm al-Qiyamah, that in the eyes of Allah, there is no distinction and difference between you apart from the individual who practices the most taqwa. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. To give some structure to our discussion, inshallah, we are going to divide the journey of Hajj into three major components, correct? Dividing Hajj into three major components, we would understand that these are the stages we go through when embarking upon this journey. Stage number one is cutting off affinity with all things apart from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Stage number two is continuing towards Allah until you reach Him. These are the two stages of Hajj. However, I said there's three. So stage number one is cutting off all ties. And stage number two is actually reaching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What possibly comes after that? What possible stage comes after actually reaching and gaining proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? As I said, remember the symbolism. This is a metaphor of death. This is trying to teach us the understanding of the inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, the movement to God and the movement back. So what could be the third step after Hajj or Umrah? The third step, brothers and sisters, after Hajj and Umrah is to, after you have gained this enlightenment, after you have gained this knowledge and after you've gained this understanding, you need to come back to the people and teach it to them. You need to come back to the people and enlighten them. How many people have we seen go on Hajj or on Umrah? How many people have gone on Hajj and gone on Umrah and come back and have been a part of the re-enlightenment of a community? We see many, correct? So the reason of this is entirely the case. An individual has gone to the end of it, has gained proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, lived to tell the tale, now has come back and is now doing a manner of tabligh to the community where they will benefit and so will they themselves. So that being said, we move on. And I would say I can go into many analyses of what the Hajj actually means. But the finest, the single finest analysis of what the Hajj truly means has been given to us by Imam Zayn al-Abidin salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Brothers and sisters, the story goes. Imam Zayn al-Abidin had a companion. And this companion had the name of Shibli, correct? So this companion went on Hajj. MashaAllah, completed. Back in the day, going on Hajj was a difficult affair, correct? It wasn't as it is now. So this companion went on Hajj and went back in the presence of the dear Ma'soom and stated, I have now completed the Hajj. And the conversation that Imam now has with the companion gives us the understanding of the inner essence of each act of the Hajj itself. In the interest of time, we will not go through each one. However, I will mention a couple of the points that the Ma'soom made, and from there we will notice, are we simply going through the motions in life? Are we simply just going through the motions? Are we simply doing the acts, going down to sujood, not eating, paying our zakat, giving the khums, going on Hajj, doing the tawalla and tabarra? Are we simply going through the motions? Have we simply observed the outer form, or have we connected to the true purpose of the amal itself? After this analysis, we will come to a very clear understanding that what we think the inner form is and what the Ma'soom thinks the inner form is are two entirely different things. So the conversation now begins between the two, where Ma'soom goes to him and he states that, did you perform the Hajj, O companion of mine? And what did this dear companion respond with? Oh yes, I have completed the Hajj. The Imam then stated, you stopped at miqat, correct? And you put off your clothes and you washed yourself, did you not? That's the first stage of Hajj or Umrah, was it not? He stated, you stopped at miqat, you got rid of the clothes that you had, and you washed yourself and you did a ghusl. Is this something you did? He responded, yes. So as far as we're concerned, job done, box ticked. However, what does Imam continue with? He stated, as you stopped in the miqat, did you intend to put off the garment of disobedience and put on a garment of obedience? Was this consciously in your mind? When you got rid of the clothes that you were wearing and you now donned the ihram, was this now a conscious decision of you getting rid of the clothes of disobedience and wearing the clothes of obedience? The companion says, no, I just took off my clothes and I wore the ihram. There was not really much deep, in-depth analysis or discussion going on here. So then the Imam continues. He states that as you put off your sewn clothes, did you intend to get rid of riyah? Did you intend to get rid of hypocrisy? Did you intend to get rid of intrusion into suspicious matters? He says that no, I simply just took off my clothes and I wore the ones that I needed to. The Imam says, let's continue. As you washed yourself, did you intend to wash yourself from sins and wash yourself from the dhunub that you have committed during your life? He says, no, I just turned on the water and I had the ghusl and I carried on with what I needed to do. Imam then states, as you have done this, where we look at the ghusl and when we look at staying at the maqam and when we look at taking off the clothes, Imam stated, when you have actually acted upon this, Imam does not simply say, try again and do better. He states that as far as I'm concerned, you did, the hadith says this, I'm reading verbatim, you had not stopped at the miqat, you had not taken off your old clothes, you have not worn the ihram, and you had not participated in this part of the Hajj. As far as I'm concerned, this is something you have not done, mutlaqan. The individual is now, of course, this is a very esteemed companion, right? And he's saying, okay, anyway, let's move on. Maybe, as I stated, some parts of our salah can be accepted. Maybe some parts of my umrah or Hajj will be accepted. We continue, and from this continuation, we see that what does this actually mean? When you wear the ihram in Hajj is a representation of the takbir. In salah, when we start, we do the takbir. In Hajj, when we do the niyyah and after that when we wear the ihram, it's very much at this point, everything becomes haram moving forward. So what the Imam was trying to teach this individual was that the things that you are doing, you did the outer form. However, the actual reasoning behind them at your level, you should have understood what it is that we were supposed to get at. So the Imam continues, right, with this onslaught, I would say. And it's the entire, each nukta of what is going on. He addresses each and every single one. Each and every single one. He states that you did this physical act. However, is this something that you took away from it? So we continue. The Imam states, you roamed between Safa and Marwa, right? Again, I'm cutting off a lot in the middle because in the interest of time, we can't go through the entire tradition. You walked between Safa and Marwa. He says, yes, I walked between Safa and Marwa. He said that when you walked between Safa and Marwa, did you intend to be between hope and fear? Think about this. Is that in our mind? When you walk between Safa and Marwa, were you consciously thinking about you being between hope and fear? A true mu'min lives between where? A true mu'min lives between hope and fear. We don't fall entirely in fear because of course this would not be conducive for growth. We don't fall entirely in hope because we'd forget all of our ibadahs. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Rahim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive us. We don't need to do anything else. A true mu'min lives in the middle. So Imam is saying when you're walking between Safa and Marwa, what the understanding and the batin and the inner essence of this is, were you consciously walking between hope and fear? Were you understanding that your point is in the middle? You also need to have hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you also need to have fear. He says that no, I didn't really think about this and this is something I hadn't taken into consideration. The Imam then states in the tradition that as far as I am concerned, you had not done the walk of Safa and Marwa. So he continues, he said that when you reached the location and you threw the pebbles and you got your hair cut and you slaughtered the animal, when you did all of these things and returned to Mecca and did the tawaf, I ask you the question, did you do these things? He says, yes, I did these things. The Imam continues. He states that when you arrived at the maqam and then you threw the pebbles, when you arrived at the location and then you threw the pebbles, did you feel that you achieved the aim that your Lord had bestowed upon you? The representation of throwing the stones, what is it? With each stone, we need to be getting rid of one of the bad habits that we have. With each stone, we need to be getting rid of one of the aspects that are taking us away from God. With each stone, we need to be getting rid of the aspects of our life that we really detest. And we can see that the acceptance of our Hajj is in the outcome of whether we continue in those acts or whether we don't. So Imam is stating, when you threw these, do you think that you're reaching the aim that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had destined for you? He stated that no, this is something that I had not taken into consideration. He states that as you threw the pebbles, did you intend your true enemy to be the shaitan? Did you intend your true enemy to be the Iblis? Was this something that you were thinking of deeply when you were throwing the stones? Or was it simply an act of throwing the stones? The dear companion responds with, this is simply an act of throwing the stones. There was no in-depth thought of what was going in behind it. He said, as you shaved your head, correct? As you shaved your head, did you intend to purify yourself from all of the filth and all of the sins and become as pure as you were when your mother gave birth to you? Who's going through this in their mind when their head is getting shaved when they go to Mecca? Yes? Who's thinking about these things? You sit on the chair, the dear brother comes behind you, he shaves your head and you call it a day, correct? He says, are you physically thinking of the purification process? That when you sit on that chair, you get your hair shaved, that this is now representing the purity you had when you came out of the womb of your mother? What do you think the companion responded with? He responded with, no, I did not. So this continues time and time again. When you slaughtered the animal, did you do this? When you did the tawaf, did you do that? It responded with, no, I did not do this, and no, I did not do that. So the tradition concludes at this point, where the Imam stated, after a deep analysis of everything that you did, I can very solemnly conclude that you have not done the Hajj at all. This Hajj has not been accepted, and as far as I'm concerned, this is something you need to do again. So what does the companion do? The companion at this point, Khati'ah starts crying, correct? The individual just went on Hajj, this entire elongated process, and he now breaks down into tears. However, the next year he goes on Hajj again, bearing all of these points in mind. So what we need to understand here is, of course, first of all, we shouldn't put ourselves to that high of a level. Don't worry too much, right? The position of a companion and the position of me, there's a great difference, right? But nonetheless, we give ourselves the excuse of the ma'soom. They were ma'soom, we can't be like them. But what about the companions? They were humans like us, no? So if that's not the place where we are, that's definitely the place that we can move at. That's definitely the direction that we can move towards. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. As we conclude our discussion, as our time has now come to an end, we could go further into the dissection and analysis of Hajj. However, I think now breaking off into the juncture of jihad would be the most appropriate point in time here. Now, it's very conscious that I left this amount of time for jihad. It's not because it's less important, and it's not because there's not enough points in it. It's more so because what jihad encapsulates is everything else in the rest of the furu' ad-din. What do I mean? For example, when we look at the act of praying, when we look at the act of fasting, when we look at the act of siyam, anything that we do in this aspect, this is all underpinned by an aspect of jihad, correct? However, our definition of jihad and I would say the Western quote-unquote definition of jihad are two very different things. And the distinction that we want to make here is how have the Ma'sumin defined jihad to us? How have the Ma'sumin actually explained this process to us? We see that they have made a very clear distinction between two forms of jihad. Jihadun akbar and jihadun asghar. And the point that will bring this to conclusion is the tradition from Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Where he states that Hajj is the most excellent of all jihads, linking our 2 points together. Hajj is the most excellent of all jihads. But we haven't really come to understand what jihad truly is, correct? So does jihad truly mean holy war? That's what I heard growing up, right, in northwest London. Jihad, holy war, Muslims, jihad. Understanding this, we need to now destigmatize what jihad actually truly means. Jihad has got nothing to do with holy war. Open any Arabic dictionary in front of you, you will never see holy war in front of the words jihad. What jihad actually means is striving, and what jihad actually means is struggling, correct? When we speak about a mujtahid, mujtahid comes from the same root word as jihad. Because what does a mujtahid do? He strives hard in order to derive Islamic laws. So a mujtahid is participating in his acting of jihad. So jihad itself in essence is simply a striving, is simply a movement, is simply a struggling towards a greater good. However, let's be more specific. This striving, what is it towards? What is this major jihad and what is this minor jihad? In the tradition we state, the Holy Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, saw people coming back from the battlegrounds, correct? This is our conventional jihad. He saw people coming back from the battlefield, and when he saw people coming back from the battlefield, he said, congratulations upon you who have completed the minor jihad and are yet to complete the major jihad. I said, Ya Rasulullah, how much major do you want to get? We risked our lives and we risked our families and our livelihoods and everything we put on the line, and you're saying this is the minor one? Ya Rasulullah, please enlighten us, what is this major jihad that you speak of? He says the major jihad that I am speaking of is jihadun akbar. And the major jihad that I'm speaking of is jihad of the nafs. Because the war on the battlefield ends one day or another, doesn't it, brothers and sisters? It ends. Does the war within inside yourself ever end? As I said, the human soul is in two parts, one telling you to do one thing, one telling you to do another thing. This war that we constantly fight and that we constantly have, does this ever end? Is this ever over? Never. So the greatest jihad and the definition that we want to derive from this is the striving of an individual. He is trying to make the right decisions. The striving on an individual, he is staying on the path of taqwa. So salah is a never-ending jihad. You never get a concession from it, correct? It's a never-ending jihad. It keeps on going and it keeps on moving forward. Ramadan, yesterday's discussion, a never-ending jihad. It keeps on moving and it keeps on evolving. Hajj, a never-ending jihad. Yes, until you have done it, it's something that is wajib upon you. So you must engage in the spiritual warfare in order to find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, brothers and sisters. And the rest of the furu' are in exactly the same notion. So the major jihad is non-stop. This is the biggest distinction that I want to give. It is non-stop and it's something that we never actually get a break for. And when we understand that there is no break for this, then we understand that we really need to tie our shoelaces and look upon the journey of life with some seriousness. That this is something that never ends. This is a war that will never be over. So I might as well be prepared rather than someone who doesn't look at it. For example, I can only speak for myself. When I was younger and I would be thinking about religion, I would say, okay, I'll get religious when I'm older, right? I'll do these things when I'm older. I'll do these things later on. Is that how you prepare for war? I ask you, the soldiers in the army, are they saying there's a very low likelihood of war now? So we'll take a couple of years off, we'll have a good time. and then after that we'll prepare for it. No. Someone who is prepared for war and an individual who is a warrior is prepared at any moment's instance, correct? Can we hand on the Quran right now state that we are truly ready? Can we hand on the Quran now state that we are truly prepared? So the jihad that's striving, the struggling that we are looking at in this instance, brothers and sisters, is how ready are we? How prepared are we? How sincere are we of our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So we finish and we conclude on this note, as my time has now come to an end, that jihad and hajj are two motions and are two notions that need to come into some sort of fruition when we analyze them together, correct? That we have stated that hajj is one of the greatest of jihads, but jihad is a more overall encompassing purpose and reason. So we have now gone through the salah itself, where we understood the batin of each individual act. We went through siyam, where we understood that the batin of the action of kul is for us to develop self-restraint and for us to develop taqwa. We understand that for hajj, the batin and the inner essence that we are trying to go for, the ghaiba that we allude to in the aspect of hajj, is that this is symbolizing a journey of us getting back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a journey symbolizing the death of our ego. This is a journey symbolizing the death of our lower self. When we go on umrah and when we go on hajj, the passing away of that ego, the wearing of the kafan or the ihram, the wearing of these things and then moving forward is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. The same way we die and we come back to life again after we pass away is the same way when you go through this spiritual journey, your ego dies and now you can live on. Because we have a tradition from Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Where he states that people are asleep and when they die they wake up. Beautiful, is it not? People are asleep and when they die they wake up. So when that time does come for us to wake up, and when that time does come when we come out of this illusion, and when that time does truly arrive, we need to make sure that we are prepared. And that is what the batin of jihad is. And that is what the inner essence of jihad is. And that is what the understanding of this is. It's not this, again, the danger of trivializing things. The danger of being a reductionist. The danger of just acting on the zahir is what we saw in the Middle East a few years ago. When individuals in the name of jihad were causing the biggest atrocities known to man. Yes or no? This is the danger that we have of disconnecting the root from the branch, the asl from the far, the zahir from the batin, the inner essence from the outer form. This is the danger that we have. That's of course an extreme form of it, but nonetheless we move in that direction when we disconnect an action from the actual purpose behind it. So the purpose of jihad is this, the inner striving, the struggling for us to gain proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and once this proximity is gained, only then we can apply that to any moment, any far, any, we would say, acts of ibadah that we have in our life. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah grant us all the tawfiq to implement upon all of our furu' in the obligated manner. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah grant us the tawfiq to be raised in the army of Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman when the time may come. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah grant us the tawfiq ultimately to succeed in our ultimate endeavor, which is that of Jihadun Akbar. وآخر دعوانا والحمد لله رب العالمين صلوات على محمد وآل الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
صلنا على محمد وآل محمد. For the acceptance of our a'mal, for the acceptance of du'as, especially on these nights of power, on these nights of qadr, in this night, in this month of Shahr Ramadan, recite the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Especially for the dua to be with our Imam, the Ali of our time, for his hujjah, for his hastening, for his swift reappearance. Please, for the reappearance of our beloved Imam, Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman, Salna ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. اللهم صل على سر المستودع فيها بعد ما أحاط به علمك يا رب الحسين بحق الحسين اشف صدر الحسين بزهور الحجة يا رب الحجة بحق الحجة اشف صدر الحجة بظهور الحجة. Oh night that is spent in the worship of my Lord. Oh night that is spent in the worship of my Lord. The night that is greater than 1,000 nights. The head upon the ground is the door to God's abode, and soon is the night Ali is coming home. The night soon comes when we lose the book of Allah. The night soon comes when we lose the book of Allah. He who was the walking Quran, yet the silence Murtada. But whenever he spoke, he only spoke the words of Allah. And the little he could speak, and the little he could speak became Nahjul Balagha. Ali the first, Ali the last. Oh, he who began in the house of Allah, it only befits him to end in the worship of Allah. For all his life, he prepared for prayer by splitting his hair and applying water. Today that head, is split by a sword, as the one returning to Allah is Haydar. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Fustu bi rabbil Kaaba, by Allah, by the Kaaba I have succeeded. The words of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Narrations say that those poison had gone into Amir al-Mu'mineen quickly. The wound is deep, the strike of the sword has weakened Amir al-Mu'mineen to the point Hassan and Hussein had to hold their father side by side. What did the narration say? Amir al-Mu'mineen carried by his sons this lion of Allah. Never in battle did he fall upon the ground. Now look at Haydar on the night of the 19th. He is being carried by Hassan and Hussein from the masjid of Kufa back to home. But you know what happened, my dear brothers and sisters? When Amir al-Mu'mineen reached the steps of his home, those who have been to Masjid of Kufa, those who have done the ziyarah, you must remember his home. There are some steps outside his home. When he reached the steps of his home, he said, Hassan, Hussein, my sons, let me walk the rest. Ya Abul Hassan, why do you ask this? You are wounded. There is no shame in asking your sons to help you. He says, Zainab is at home. I do not want my daughter to see Ali in this state. My dear brothers, my sisters, there are a few friends I know who have daughters. Many of my friends have been given daughters. Tell me, I do not have a daughter. As a father, how difficult it is to see your daughter in this state. Cry for Zainab, cry for Kulthum. Tonight is not the night to shy away from tears. Tonight is not the night. The Ahlul Bayt lament with you. Zainab laments with you. The men gather in the home of Amir al-Mu'mineen. They are waiting what is happening with their master. The doctor, the Hakim, he is in the room alone with Amir al-Mu'mineen, anxiously waiting. They are waiting for the news. The Hakim leaves the room. He looks at the man with a face of hopelessness. He says, oh man, soon your Mawla will leave you. Recite Inna Lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. The man began to cry aloud. Soon Amir al-Mu'mineen will leave this world. Imam Hassan, he tells the man, oh man, please can you leave so that the daughters of Amir al-Mu'mineen can see their father. The man began to leave. A companion named Asbagh ibn Nubayta, he hid behind the door. Hassan finds him. He says, Asbagh, my sisters wish to see our father. Please leave. He says, Yabna Rasulullah, my legs cannot leave until I see Amir al-Mu'mineen. After his pleading, after his wishing, he enters the room. What does Asbagh say? Asbagh narrates, I saw Haydar on his deathbed. Wallah, the poison has weakened my Mawla. I could not tell the difference between his skin and his yellow ababa. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim. Ali, you are that one who looked after me like a father. Ali, you taught me the love of Allah. Look how the world has abandoned you, Ya Ali. A time comes, the household of the Ahlul Bayt are lamenting. Hassan is by the side of his father, crying, weeping. He cannot bear to see his father. This is Amir al-Mu'mineen. What does Abul Hassan do? He says, Ya Hassan, be patient. Do not worry, he is a father, he consoles his heart. Imam Hussein enters the room, he looks at his father, he begins to cry and lament. He says, Ya Hussein, it is more difficult with your younger son, but still, he says, Hussein, do not worry, soon I will join your grandfather Rasulullah. Do not worry, he is consoling him. But what did the narration say? When Zainab, when Kulthum enters the room, Abul Hassan could not bear their tears. He began to cry with them. He began to lament with them. I say, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, you could bear the tears of Hassan, you could bear the tears of Hussein, but not of your daughters. Then come to Karbala, come to Sham. Abu Abdullah is killed. There is no Abu Fadil. Zainab is running between 10 to 10. Brothers, if you cannot bear this, imagine what happened to the daughters of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Come to Karbala, they are taken towards Kufa and Sham. One lady, she began to look at the spears. She began to stare at the heads. One of the ladies asked her, "Oh lady, why do you stare at the heads? Why do you stare amongst the prisoners?" She says, "I see this head. This head is a young man. He is so handsome. He is so beautiful. I am wondering, when they cut his head, was his mother watching? This head was none other than Ali al-Akbar." Zainab says, "This is Layla, and this is my son Onan Muhammad. That is Abu Fadil, that is Ali al-Asghar. We are the mothers of these sons." Bear with me, my brothers. Bear with me, my sisters. Oh Ali, your Zainab is solely your daughter. Narrations state that when she entered the bazaar of the enemies, the way she spoke, the way she stood, the way she defended Imam Zainul Abidin, they said Haydar has come back alive. They said Haydar is in this courtyard. She began to say her khutbah. The people of that city, they were being influenced, they had sympathy. Look what the Mal'oon did. The enemy of Allah said to another one, "Zainab is taking them away from us. We need to control the situation." He says, "I have an idea." When Zainab was speaking, you know how much she loved Abu Abdullah. The spear with Hussein's head was placed in front of Zainab. She couldn't bear to see his face. She couldn't bear to see Abu Abdullah. Hussein began to recite the Quran. "Why, my brother, have they crushed your lips? Why do they beat you with a stick? Wa Zainaba, wa Husseina." Sallallahu alayka ya Mawlana al-Gharib. Sallallahu alayka ya Mawlana ya Abu Abdullah. Sallallahu alayka ya Mawlana ya Gharib al-Kufa. Sallallahu alayka ya Mawlana ya Aliyan al-Murtada. Rise for Matam, inshallah. Ya Haydar, Ya Haydar, Ya Haydar, Ya Haydar. Brothers, come closer, inshallah. Ya Haydar, Ya Haydar, Ya Haydar. MashaAllah, louder. Ya Haydar, Ya Haydar. Ya Haydar, Ya Haydar. Brothers, come closer, inshallah. Make two lines, inshallah. Ya Haydar, Ya Haydar, Ya Haydar. Ya Haydar, mashallah. Ya Haydar, recite for your Imam. Ya Haydar, Ya Haydar. Ya Ali, Ya Ali, Madad. Ya Ali, Ya Ali, Madad. Ya Ali, Ya Ali, Madad.
مدد يا هلي يا هلي مدد يا هلي يا هلي مدد يا هلي يا هلي مدد يا ما شاء الله يا هلي يا هلي مدد يا هلي يا ما شاء الله مدد يا هلي يا هلي مدد يا again يا علي مدد يا علي يا يا علي يا علي مدد يا علي يا علي مدد يا علي يا علي مدد يا علي يا علي يا علي يا علي مدد Ali Madad. It is time to say our farewell. Our sorrows, who can we tell? Now Zainab has lost her father, and in sorrow her heart shatters. You were born in Kaaba's embrace, now your head splitting in its place. The blood from your head reached your eye. This is the voice heard in the sky. Ya Ali, Ya Ali, Madad. MashaAllah. Ya Ali, Ya Ali, Madad. Ya Ali, Ya Ali, Madad. Again, brothers. Ya Ali, Ya Ya Ali, Ya Ali, Madad. Now tell me, oh my Murtada, will you say salam to Zahra? Now tell me, oh my Murtada, will you say salam to Zahra? You were the only name she called when she was stuck between the door. Zahra cried, help me, oh Ali, but they hit her with no mercy. And now it's time to say goodbye. Oh Ali, she has heard your cry. Ya Ali, Ya Ali, Madad. Ya Ali, Ya Ali, Madad. Ya again, inshallah. Ya Ali, Ya Ya Ali, Ya Ali, Madad. Madad. After you, Kufa did not scare. Even Hussein they did not spare. The traitors to your family did not stop with your name Ali. Hussein was left in Karbala, the lonely lion of Zahra. In his last breath without a doubt, even Najaf could hear his shout. Ya Ali, Ya Ali, Madad. Madad, Ya Ali, Ya Ali, Madad, Ya Ali, Ya Ali. خوشگلی و محجبینی، مایه فخر زمینی، پهلوون و پهلوونا، پسر البنینی، پسرم تو نور عینی، پسرم تو نور عینی، پادشاه عالمینی، اما یادت باشه مادر بلاگردون حسینی حسین وای بگو حسین
حسین وای حسین وای حسین اسد الله عین الله حیدر یا حیدر مرد مردای عالم کیه جز مولانا حیدر کیه جز مولانا علی جانو علی جانان علی صاحب عالم امکان علی قبله علی ایمان علی آیه به آیه قرآن جان حیدر یا حیدر شور محشر یا حیدر یل جنگاور یا حیدر یل جنگاور یا حیدر حیدر یا حیدر یا علی حیدر یا حیدر الله حیدر یا حیدر همه حیدر یا حیدر یا علی حیدر حیدر یا حیدر کی به جز تو جا داره تو قلب زهرا خوشبخت توی عالم به تو هر کس میگه بابا به تو هر کس میگه بابا تو امیر دل مایی تو نماز و ذکر و دعایی توی مروه تو صفایی تو امام حلال زاده هایی جان یارم یا حیدر دوست دارم یا حیدر دل و دل دارم یا حیدر دل و دل حیدر حیدر یا حیدر یا علی حیدر یا حیدر الله حیدر یا حیدر همه حیدر یا حیدر یا علی حیدر یا حیدر بلند بگو حیدر یا حیدر علی من بهشت و حس کردم زیر ایوونت خوبا تا روز محشر تو نجف هستن مهمونت تو نجف هستن مهمونت توی ماه شب تارم تا قیامت هستی کنارم خوب آقا روزگارم تا که عشق حسین تو دارم جان مولا یا حیدر ذکر زهرا یا حیدر علمت بالا یا حیدر علمت بالا یا حیدر حیدر یا حیدر حیدر یا حیدر یا علی حیدر یا حیدر بگو حیدر یا حیدر حیدر یا حیدر اسد الله عین الله حیدر یا حیدر مرد مردای عالم کیه جز مولانا حیدر کیه جز مولانا حیدر علی جانو علی جانان، علی صاحب عالم امکان، علی قبله، علی ایمان، علی آیه به آیه قرآن جان. حیدر یا حیدر، شور محشر یا حیدر، یل جنگاور یا حیدر، یل جنگاور یا حیدر. حیدر یا حیدر یا علی حیدر، الله حیدر یا حیدر یا علی حیدر یا حیدر. حیدر یا حیدر یا علی حیدر یا حیدر. حیدر یا حیدر، حیدر یا حیدر. صلوات. دعاء فرج. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء. 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 يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله، بحق المضطر أجب المضطر ونحن المضطرون. يا الله يا الله، شافي وعافي كل مريض بحق مريض كربلاء زين العابدين عليه السلام. ونهدي ثواب السورة المباركة الفاتحة لموتى المؤمنين والمؤمنات، لا سيما موتى الحاضرين وشهداء الحشد الشعبي ومؤسسي هذا المجلس ومن أوصانا بالدعاء، مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. We will be commencing with the Q&A straight away. So if the brothers and sisters can please get their questions ready, we will get the system up and running. So that is, if the brothers and sisters can get their questions ready, there will be a code or a QR code to which you can sign up and ask your questions anonymously. And then we will start straight away. Salawat. So there will be a 5-minute break, brothers and sisters. Please do grab some refreshments from the refreshment table. We are setting up the system. Grab refreshments from the refreshment table. Please do go to the bathroom, and we will get the Q&A session started very soon. Thank you very much.
have the Islamic perspective on it, because the Ahlul Bayt have given us the ilm and ulum for everything. So inshallah, series maybe next year, if Hawza let me come, if I manage to break out of Najaf. But if not, inshallah, I do know personally a lot of the scholars are going around. For example, Jawad Shumali, we spoke about a series on this as well. He's doing remarkable work on it. So I would recommend, inshallah, individuals like Jawad, and book recommendations. Do come to me, I can give you a very long list, inshallah.
Do I have permission to add as well? Or?
Yeah, please,
yes.
please.
There is research by Abdullah Rothman. So he does a lot of studies about Islamic psychology. There is a lot of literature, although it's a niche area. There is literature about it in terms of the paradigm shift. So Western psychology or Western therapy versus Islamic kind of therapy, and how those two can kind of come together. So there's a lot of interesting research there too, and I also agree with Sheikh Jawad Shumali. He has amazing books, and he does have a psychotherapeutic lens to things that could be really helpful as well. Moving on, next question based on the votes. What can we do to grow a deeper connection with Imam al-Mahdi, Ajalallah Farajah? I think that's the question.
Learn about his life, read about his life. It's something we don't spend a lot of time doing, right? We spend a lot of time, for example, reading books or watching videos, going through YouTube, so on and so forth. But the more we know about someone, the more of a relationship we develop with them. If we look at it from a lower dimension, if we want to develop a relationship with an alim, what do? We read the biography of that alim. We, for example, read the works of that alim, and we gain an understanding with them. So in order to develop a deeper understanding and relationship with Imam Mahdi, read the biographies by, for example, Qurayshi. Read the ahadith that we have reported for him. Make an effort to find every bit of literature you can about Imam Mahdi, then your natural inclinations will draw you towards him.
Thank you, Syed, for the answer. I'm going to have to ask for the noise levels to go a little bit lower. أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد.
Allahumma salli.
Thank you.
Don't ask that one.
I'll try and hide it if it does. Does it show up? No, it doesn't show up. Okay. Ooh, this is a much better microphone. Okay. All right. Noise levels are good. This is good. Okay. Next question. We did answer that. Syed, what fueled your motivation to accomplish the feats you have and made you want to study in the Hawza, I assume, or Hawza? I mean, it is Hawza.
Hawza. By the real Ali Asghar. So, to the real Ali Asghar. What fueled my motivation to accomplish the feats that I have and made me want to study in Hawza? For me, it's a very long story, but if I was to boil it down into... This mic is not fantastic, by the way. We'll use one mic. Yeah, good idea. Oh, that is good. Yeah. For me personally, what fueled it, I don't want to go into too much detail because it's a very extensive story. But nonetheless, what my ultimate desire was for going to Hawza was to find the truth, right? I was born into a religion. I was, of course, Muslim Shia, and I was being told and almost forced into doing things that I didn't really know why I was doing. So I came to some sort of crossroad where I said that me as an individual, I know that I haven't been created for me to simply accept the religion of my forefathers. I've been created in order to be a pursuer of the truth, wherever that may be. So I said, if I find the truth in Shia Islam, so be it. If I find the truth elsewhere, so be it. I'm an individual who will not be a mouthpiece for any sectarian or any tribalistic tendencies. What I would be a mouthpiece for is the truth and the, I would say, objective pursuit of it. So when I went to the Hawza, I went to look for loops and holes and cracks in the system that would say that, okay, this definitely isn't a part of the objective truth, but surprisingly, contrary to what I thought, the opposite happened. And the beliefs that I had got supplemented, and it actually allowed me to believe deeper into what the truth actually is. So to answer your question, the pursuit and the reason of me going to Hawza was to understand what the truth is in an unbiased perspective.
Thank you so much, Syed. Next question. Ooh, that's loud. Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, Iran, Iraq, Yemen, the whole world is undergoing huge transformation. Many in our community don't know. What is your take, analysis?
When we talk about our community, we're very locked away in a Western bubble, I must say, in the United Kingdom. When you go out and when you travel, you understand that the world is much bigger. And human beings, we naturally think of ourselves as the center of the universe. So we think that if we don't know about it, then no one probably knows about it. But that being said, why do we not specifically know about it? Because as I said, we are really trapped inside this loop of modernism, of the modern world, of we're just doing our duties, we're praying our salah, we're giving our zakat, and we're going to call it a day. But in order for the Imam himself to actually come, we need to put ourselves in a situation where we are more informed of the global atmosphere, we're more informed of the society and what's going on. So to answer your question, what is your take analysis on the fact that our community don't know about this huge transformation? I would say it's more so not the outside world's fault. It's more so our fault that we are unable to actually go outside and see what's happening. We're unable, and we would say we're unlikely to actually go and pursue the truth for what it truly is. So we need to take a look outside of our houses and outside of our gardens and actually have a look and understand that life is much bigger than me, life is much bigger than the United Kingdom, life is much bigger than the West. And when we take the whole world into consideration, that's when we can actually move forward as an ummah. In the Quran, where it states, إِنَّ هَذِهِ أُمَّتَكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدًا, it talks about the entirety of the world. So it's now my obligation as a Shia, my obligation as a Muslim, for me to be informed about the situations going around. So that's my take, if it makes sense to that question.
Thank you so much, Syed. And next question. So, I mean, based on the votes, I do have to ask it. Who's your barber? That is a secret of the Hawza. We don't ask these questions. Yeah, I can't cross that line. Bahth al-Kharij, that one. If you are with Sunni friends, is it better to pray salah at their time in congregation or wait?
So of course, in attempts of unity, we try to unite the Sunni brothers and sisters, and that's always the aim, but never at the compromising of our own faith. This is something we need to understand. I'm all for unity, and I'm very much for it, and I'm always at the forefront of actually taking these initiatives. But whenever we make an intention to actually unify ourselves, this always comes at the cost of compromising our own values. They're not mutually exclusive, correct? You can have one and you can have the other as well. We can have unity and you can stand for what you stand for. So to answer the question, when we are with our Sunni friends, is it better to pray salah at their time in congregational prayer, or wait? So in regards to the time itself, no. You can't pray at a time that's not salah time. You can't do anything along those lines. However, what usually happens is after adhan and so on and so forth, it's time for our salah. So I think the more nuanced and better question would be, can we pray in jama'ah with our Sunni friends to maintain and retain unity? We have traditions, and on the recommendation of some ulama, that you should join the jama'ah of our Sunni brothers and sisters. However, the jama'ah would not be a jama'ah. The jama'ah would be a furada. You would act as if you were in the jama'ah, so that as to not break the form of unity. We see Imam Ja'far Sadiq, we see the other Ahlul Bayt recommending the same. Do not break the unity, stay inside the jama'ah. However, of course, you need to continue your own furada and complete your prayer as that. So the out loud al-Fatiha and surah, and stay in the form. However, nonetheless, it's the intention of furada.
Thank you. Did you raise your hand? Did you want to ask a question? Do I have enough line or wire to go ahead, or am I stuck? You have another one. Ali, do you want to take charge of the movement? All right, get those calories down.
Thank you, Syed, for your lecture. We know that one of the final statements of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the famous statement, is وَفُزْتُ بِرَبِّ الْكَعْبَةِ. And we translate it as I have become successful, or I have achieved success, or something along those lines. But when was it ever that he was not successful? So is it that perhaps we're mistranslating it, and he's saying, I am still successful? And on the second part of it, at the end of Hadith al-Kisa, we read, وقال علي عليه السلام إذا والله فزنا وصعدنا كذلك شيعتنا فازوا وصعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة, which is a statement along similar lines, but here in the criterion for success, or the claim for success, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen is including his Shia along with him. So it's not just him. So if we say that Shias can be successful as Amir al-Mu'mineen was successful, what is it that they need to do?
Good question. And was your the question that was asking if Ali ibn Abi Talib was successful, why do we mourn him and why do we grieve him? Was that from you as well? Okay, so that's a separate one I will answer afterwards. So the crux of your question was exactly how can we become more like him, right?
Yeah, I mean, how do we translate that statement firstly? Is it that we translate it as... We translate the statement as, I have become successful. So that the implication there is that he wasn't at some point. Is it that he's saying that he remains successful? Because he's always been successful.
Very much so.
And then the second part is, he's in Hadith al-Qisa, he's including the Shia in his success. So if we're going to be successful like he is successful, how can we do that?
So first we need to define what a Shia actually is, correct? When we define what a Shia truly is, we see that most definitely an individual who fills in all the requirements of being a Shia, there is no other way but success for them. We see the Ma'sumin saying that you are not a Shia to a group of people that went up to them and said, we follow you, we love you. It's just like, no, you're not a Shia. You're a lover of the Ahlul Bayt, but you can't define yourself as a Shia. A Shia has a very big responsibility. And the responsibilities that we need to take into consideration when actually calling ourselves Shia is acting upon the a'mal and acting upon the different components of ibadah in their truest manner. It's not simply about loving the Ahlul Bayt. This is very shallow and two-dimensional, right? They're much higher entities and beings in that. It means actually living in their seerah, correct? For example, on Yawm al-Qiyamah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to ask me if I believed in the wilayah of Ali ibn Abi Talib. He's going to ask me, how did you live in the seerah of Ali ibn Abi Talib, correct? I could have believed in the wilayah all I wanted and lived a terrible life, right? More akin to those who were partaking in Saqifa than in comparison to those who actually worked against it. So it's about how far you actually live through their principles and understand their lifestyle. So that's what determines success, and we too will become successful if we're true Shi'as, not simply the dictionary definition of Shi'a, right? When you're filling in a form and you tag down and you click Shi'a, not that. If you break down, for example, the ahadith that tell you what the components of Shi'a is, inshallah we can go through that as well in some degree if we have the tawfiq at some point in the future. You see that it's a very big responsibility, and anyone who fulfills these requirements, most verily success is the only destination for them. So I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Sorry. I think I clicked something and then it did its own thing. My apologies. I thought I wanted to show the poll. So I'm going to switch the polls, let you know what's going on. But I think from memory, if I remember it right, it's socials and residentials are higher. Yes, so what kind of ELIF events you would like to attend? We have the poll showing 45% for the socials and another 45% for retreats and residential. So those are the highest. And then closer after, just trying to find, oh, and Quran for adults as well. They're all 45%. Interesting. So going back to the questions. There's a question that's interesting. Sometimes it's hard to feel spiritual closeness to Allah. Any tips to improve? And I might add a tail end to that as well.
We need to stop thinking of spirituality as something that we constantly have, right? How did I define taqwa as the other day? I said it's a muscle, and what do you need to do to a muscle? You need to constantly strengthen it. It will weaken, you need to strengthen it. It will weaken, you need to strengthen it. So my teacher in Qom, how he described it is that you need to think of spirituality as a cup. And this cup has a hole at the bottom of it. So whenever you do good a'mal or ibadat, so on and so forth, it's filled and you're feeling very spiritual. However, naturally after a period of time, this is going to drain. And you need to now fill that back in with good acts and good deeds. And the comparison he brought was that of a phone. For example, if we have a phone and it's fully charged and we use it and once it's dead, are we going to now just become desolate and depressed and say that, oh my God, everything has gone terribly? No. You're going to put it back on charge again, wait for it to go on top, and then use it until you need that reburst. So Shahr Ramadan, fasting, these things fill up our cup of spirituality so that we can feel that connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whenever we do feel it weaning, the first thing we need to do, as I mentioned, in the definition of taqwa, is address our muharramat. What are the sins that we're doing, right? That is not allowing that water to stay in that cup. What are the things that we are doing that is making us get further away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Once that's addressed, then when we do ibadat and when we do the wajibat, they fill in and we maintain that spirituality for longer. So different people have different levels of spirituality. For example, Ayatul Abashid's cup would be far larger than mine. So Ayatul Abashid's spirituality would last much longer for a lot larger rate. But nonetheless, his weans as he is human and he does a'mal and ibadah to fill that up, as long as he's addressed the nub, the sins, the makruhat, and after that when he does the ibadat, then it maintains that spirituality and proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Thank you so much. Just to kind of summarize, so spirituality level keeps changing, and then it's first kind of controlling what you can control, and then kind of muharramat, and then building up from there. I wanted to, if you can, link it to the hadith about idbar and iqbal al-qulub. Is that linked to it in a way? Am I? Yeah. Shall I give you my understanding, and then you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong. So there is a natural kind of iqbal and idbar qulub, so our hearts can kind of move towards spirituality closer, and then Imam Ali advises us to kind of go for the nawafil, the extras. And if it's going away and it doesn't feel as spiritual, then you do the basics, the foundations, and then just go with it. And I link it with leniency. There's a hadith about elaine, or compassion, and how anything you add compassion to beautifies it. But help me if I'm miscorrecting things.
I think it was perfect, and just emphasizing upon the point of not doing too much, right? A lot of us fall into this trap. We do far too much. When we get religious, we do absolutely everything. Salat al-layl and all of the nawafil, and we're doing all of the ibadat, and then we burn ourselves out. The Ma'sumin, Imam Ali specifically, he told us that measure yourself, pace yourself, right? Just do your wajibat, do them on time. After that, start your nawafil, so on and so forth. So to get that proximity, you can't get it overnight. It's something that's built on and something that's developed. So based on what the brother just said very eloquently, we're going to conclude the question on this note, that the progression is slow, the progression is steady, but make sure it's sustainable.
Oh, do you want to call a friend? Okay, next question. Let me see. Does this look like a... Okay. So I'll read it. Generally growing up, there has been a big importance on imama, but why do we Shia not also put a big importance on the sunnah and hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? On his mention, salawat.
Generally, as humans, what we tend to do in order to individuate ourselves and to make ourselves unique, we don't necessarily talk about what makes us an individual, we talk about what makes us different to them, right? This doesn't necessarily have to be in religion, this can be in any sphere. So when we talk about Shia Islam and Sunni Islam, we would say the vast majority of it is quite similar. However, the things that make us different, for example, specifically imama, this is as human beings, what do we do when we try to individuate ourselves? We take that specific note of imama and make this our identity. So when speaking about why don't we focus upon the nubuwah side of affairs, I would say that this is a very big weakness of the Shia that we have today, right? When I ask someone, why do you believe in the wilayah of Ali ibn Abi Talib, they would quote me, Al-yawm akmaltu lakum dinukum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati. They would quote me, Ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasul wa ulil amri minkum. They would quote me, for example, the verse about him giving the ring in his ruku', right? They would quote me all of these verses. They would give me quotes from Bukhari, from Muslim, from Kafi, from Man la yahduru. They would give me the entire treatise. However, if I ask someone, why do we believe in the nubuwah of Rasulullah? The room goes silent, correct? And I was victim of this myself, right? When it came to being a Shia, I was a very good Shia. When it came to being a Muslim, I didn't know the fundamentals. So to answer your question, why has this happened culturally? Because it's what made us unique. But in an ideal world, what should be happening? We need to be extremely educated on the tenets of Nubuwah, the 124,000 prophets, how it completed in Rasulullah, why he is the final prophet, what makes him the final prophet, and therefore how he handed the successorship to the Ma'sumin and the Imams and the Ahlul Bayt.
Thank you so much, Syed. And I think, just checking the time, we're going to call the Q&A off, unless we have any live questions. So I'm going to give an opportunity for a hand up if you want to ask a question live. Looking around. Too much pressure for people? Oh, do you want to do the? Okay, all right. So there's a question that asks, is not praying on a turba haram?
No, is the answer to that question. If we look at Imam Ja'far Sadiq's tradition on what we need to do sajda on, he said the reason we can't do sajda on any, Assalamu alaikum. The reason why we can't do sajda on any carpet, any platform, so on and so forth, the philosophy behind it and the batil behind it, is that he stated we can't do sajda on things that are worn and sajda on things that can be eaten, because a man worships something he wears and worships things that he eats. So the istidlal behind this, the reasoning behind this, is that we need to do sajda on something that comes from the earth, right? So if you have synthetic material, if you have carpets, this didn't come from the earth. So Imam Ja'far Sadiq says, as long as it comes from the earth and it can't be eaten and it can't be worn, you're good to go. So it's not wajib that it needs to be a turba, it doesn't have to be a turba. When we used to go on travels in Hawza, we used to find a leaf of a tree and start praying, and we'd do jama'ah then. And the reasoning behind the turba and the reason why the Shia madhab is emphasizing this point a lot is because if we look at philosophically what the sajda represents, what does it represent? What did I mention in the first lecture? Why are there two sujood? The first sajda represents you coming from the earth, you becoming born. What was Adam created from? Dirt, right? The second sajda represents what? You passing away and you getting buried in the dirt. So the reason and the symbolism of having the turba and something natural touching your forehead is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to have that metaphysical relationship of when you go into sujood, you really need to feel that you are coming from this earth, you came from this earth and you're going back to this earth. So there's a very deep meaning behind the turba and the act of khak itself. However, we shouldn't be so culty, so to speak, and say we will only read salah if there's khak al-shafa. No, anything that comes from the ground that can't be eaten or can't be worn, it's good ground for doing sajda on.
Thank you so much, Syed, for the answer. On that note, thank you so much for joining us for the Q&A. It's been a pleasure answering your questions. It wouldn't have happened without your help. It's in God's control anyway. Salawat.
Salawat. Thank you, Syed, and thank you, Brother Mustafa, for the Q&A, and thank you all for your questions. Just a quick announcement before I do invite Brother Rashid to come and deliver the munajat of Imam Ali alayhi Islam. I know that the clocks go back tomorrow, so if everyone could please be here for 6 o'clock, we will do the lecture, we'll do everything, and then we'll have salah and then iftar, so that is 6 o'clock. I hope that clears any misunderstandings. So with the biggest of your salawats, I'd like to invite Brother Rashid for the munajat. If we can welcome him with the loudest of your salawats. So Brother Rashid will be reading some Quran first, and then following this will be the munajat. If we can welcome him with a very loud salawat.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Inshallah, I'll be reciting from Surah Inshiqaq. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذا السماء انشقت وأذنت لربها وحقت وإذا الأرض مدت وألقت ما فيها وتخلت وأذنت لربها وحقت يا أيها الإنسان إنك كادح إلى ربك كدحا فملاقيه فأما من أوتي كتابه بيمينه فأما من أوتي كتابه بيمينه فأما من أوتي كتابه بيمينه فسوف يحاسب حسابا يسيرا فسوف يحاسب حسابا يسيرا وينقلب إلى أهله مسرورا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إني أسألك الأمان يوم لا ينفع مال ولا بنون إلا من أتى الله بقلب سليم. وأسألك الأمان يوم يعض الظالم على يديه يقول يا ليتني اتخذت مع الرسول سبيلا. وأسألك الأمان
يوم يعرف المجرمون بسيماهم فيؤخذ بالنواصي والأقدام. وأسألك الأمان يوم لا يجزي والد عن ولده ولا مولود هو جاز عن والده شيئا، إن وعد الله حق. وأسألك الأمان يوم لا ينفع الظالمين معذرتهم ولهم اللعنة ولهم سوء الدار. وأسألك الأمان يوم لا تملك نفس لنفس شيئا والأمر يومئذ لله. وأسألك الأمان يوم يفر المرء من أخيه وأمه وأبيه وصاحبته وبنيه لكل امرئ منهم يومئذ شأن يغنيه. وأسألك الأمان يوم يود المجرم لو يفتدي من عذاب يومئذ ببنيه وصاحبته وأخيه وفصيلته التي تؤويه ومن في الأرض جميعا ثم ينجيه. كلا إنها لظى نزاعة للشوى. مولاي يا مولاي أنت المولى وأنا العبد وهل يرحم العبد إلا المولى. مولاي يا مولاي أنت المالك وأنا المملوك وهل يرحم المملوك إلا المالك. مولاي يا مولاي أنت العزيز وأنا الذليل وهل يرحم الذليل إلا العزيز. مولاي يا مولاي أنت الخالق وأنا المخلوق وهل يرحم المخلوق إلا الخالق. مولاي يا مولاي أنت العظيم وأنا الحقير وهل يرحم الحقير إلا العظيم. مولاي يا مولاي أنت القوي وأنا الضعيف وهل يرحم الضعيف إلا القوي. مولاي يا مولاي أنت الغني وأنا الفقير وهل يرحم الفقير إلا الغني. مولاي يا مولاي أنت المعطي وأنا السائل وهل يرحم السائل إلا المعطي. مولاي يا مولاي أنت أنت الحي وأنا الميت وهل يرحم الميت إلا الحي مولاي يا مولاي أنت الباقي وأنا الفاني وهل يرحم الفاني إلا الباقي مولاي يا مولاي أنت الدائم وأنا الزائل وهل يرحم الزائل إلا الدائم مولاي يا مولاي أنت الرازق وأنا المرزوق وهل يرحم الرازق إلا الرازق وهل يرحم المرزوق إلا الرازق مولاي يا مولاي أنت الجواد وأنا البخيل وهل يرحم البخيل إلا الجواد مولاي يا مولاي أنت المعافي وأنا المبتلى وهل يرحم المبتلى إلا المعافي مولاي يا مولاي أنت الكبير وأنا الصغير وهل يرحم الصغير إلا البقي إلا الكبير مولاي يا مولاي أنت الهادي وأنا الضال وهل يرحم الضال إلا الهادي مولاي يا مولاي أنت الرحمن وأنا المرحوم وهل يرحم المرحوم إلا الرحمن مولاي يا مولاي أنت السلطان وأنا الممتحن وهل يرحم الممتحن إلا السلطان مولاي يا مولاي أنت الدليل وأنا المتحير وهل يرحم المتحير إلا الدليل مولاي يا مولاي أنت الغفور وأنا المذنب وهل يرحم المذنب إلا الغفور مولاي يا مولاي أنت الغالب وأنا المغلوب وهل يرحم المغلوب إلا الغالب مولاي يا مولاي أنت الرب وأنا المربوب وهل يرحم المربوب إلا الرب مولاي يا مولاي أنت المتكبر وأنا الخاشع وهل يرحم الخاشع إلا المتكبر مولاي يا مولاي ارحمني برحمتك وارض عني بجودك وكرمك وفضلك يا ذا الجود والإحسان والطول والامتنان برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصل يا رب على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.
دعاء الافتتاح. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إني أفتتح الثناء بحمدك وأنت مسدد للصواب بمنك، وأيقنت أنك أنت أرحم الراحمين في موضع العفو والرحمة، وأشد المعاقبين في موضع النكال والنقمة، وأعظم المتجبرين في موضع الكبرياء والعظمة. اللهم أذنتني في دعائك ومسألتك فاسمع يا سميع مدحتي، وأجب يا رحيم دعوتي، وأقل يا غفور عثرتي. فكم يا إلهي من كربة قد فرجتها، وهموم قد كشفتها، وعثرة قد أقلتها، ورحمة قد نشرتها، وحلقة بلاء قد فككتها. الحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا، ولم يكن له شريك في الملك، ولم يكن له ولي من الذل، وكبره تكبيرا. الحمد لله بجميع محامده كلها، على جميع نعمه كلها. الحمد لله الذي لا مضاد له في ملكه، ولا منازع له في أمره. الحمد لله الذي لا شريك له في خلقه، ولا شبيه له في عظمته. الحمد لله الفاشي في الخلق أمره وحمده، الظاهر بالكرم مجده، الباسط بالجود يده، الذي لا تنقص خزائنه ولا تزيده كثرة العطاء إلا جودا وكرما. إنه هو العزيز الوهاب. اللهم إني أسألك قليلا من كثير، مع حاجة بي إليه عظيمة، وغناك عنه قديم، وهو عندي كثير، وهو عليك سهل يسير. اللهم إن عفوك عن ذنبي، وتجاوزك عن خطيئتي، وصفحك عن ظلمي، وسترك على قبيح عملي، وحلمك عن كثير جرمي عندما كان من خطئي وعمدي. أطمعني في أن أسألك ما لا أستوجبه منك، الذي رزقتني من رحمتك وأريتني من قدرتك وعرفتني من إجابتك، فصرت أدعوك آمنا وأسألك مستأنسا، لا خائفا ولا وجلا، مدلا عليك فيما قصدت فيه إليك. فإن أبطأ عني عتبت بجهلي عليك، ولعل الذي أبطأ عني هو خير لي لعلمك بعاقبة الأمور. فلم أر مولا كريما أصبر على عبد لئيم منك علي يا رب. إنك تدعوني فأولي عنك، وتتحبب إلي فأتبغض إليك، وتتودد إلي فلا أقبل منك، كأن لي التطول عليك. فلم يمنعك ذلك من الرحمة والإحسان إلي والتفضل علي بجودك وكرمك. فارحم عبدك الجاهل وجد عليه بفضل إحسانك، إنك جواد كريم. الحمد لله مالك الملك مجري الفلك مسخر الرياح فالق الإصباح ديان الدين رب العالمين. الحمد لله على حلمه بعد علمه، والحمد لله على عفوه بعد قدرته، والحمد لله على طول أناته في غضبه، وهو قادر على ما يريد. الحمد لله خالق الخلق باسط الرزق فالق الإصباح ذي الجلال والإكرام والفضل والإنعام، الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى. الحمد لله الذي ليس له منازع يعادله ولا شبيه يشاكله ولا ظهير يعاضده، قهر بعزته الأعزاء وتواضع لعظمته العظماء، فبلغ بقدرته ما يشاء. الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أنادي ويستر علي كل عورة وأنا أعصي، ويعظم النعمة علي فلا أجازي. فكم من موهبة هنيئة قد أعطاني، وعظيمة مخوفة قد كفاني، وبهجة مونقة قد أراني، فأثني عليه حامدا وأذكره مسبحا. الحمد لله الذي لا يهتك حجابه ولا يغلق بابه ولا يرد سائله ولا يخيب آمله. الحمد لله الذي يؤمن الخائفين وينجي الصالحين ويرفع المستضعفين ويضع المستكبرين ويهلك ملوكا ويستخلف آخرين. والحمد لله قاسم الجبارين مبير الظالمين مدرك الهاربين نكال الظالمين صريخ المستصرخين موضع حاجات الطالبين معتمد المؤمنين. الحمد لله الذي من خشيته ترعد السماء وسكانها وترجف الأرض وعمارها وتموج البحار ومن يسبح في غمراتها. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. الحمد لله الذي يخلق ولم يخلق ويرزق ولا يرزق ويطعم ولا يطعم ويميت الأحياء ويحيي الموتى وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وصفيك وحبيبك وخيرتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتك أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى وأكثر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت وسلمت على أحد من عبادك وأنبيائك ورسلك وصفوتك وأهل الكرامة عليك من خلقك. اللهم وصل على علي أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك وحجتك على خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنبأ العظيم. وصل على الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين وصل على سبطي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. وصل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي حججك على عبادك وأمنائك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائمة. اللهم وصل على ولي أمرك القائم المؤمل والعدل المنتظر وحفه بملائكتك المقربين وأيده بروح القدس يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعله الداعي إلى كتابك والقائم بدينك. استخلفه في الأرض كما استخلفت الذين من قبله. مكن له دينه الذي ارتضيته له. أبدله من بعد خوفه أمنا يعبدك لا يشرك بك شيئا. اللهم أعزه واعزز به، وانصره وانتصر به، وانصره نصرا عزيزا، وافتح له فتحا يسيرا، واجعل له من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم اظهر به دينك وسنة نبيك حتى لا يستخفي بشيء من الحق مخافة أحد من الخلق. اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة كريمة تعز بها الإسلام وأهله، وتذل بها النفاق وأهله، وتجعلنا فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيلك، وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما عرفتنا من الحق فحملنا، وما قصرنا عنه فبلغنا. اللهم المم به شعثنا، واشعب به صدعنا، وارتق به فتقنا، وكثر به قلتنا، واعزز به ذلتنا، واغني به عائلنا، واقضي به عن مغرمنا، واجبر به فقرنا، وسد به خلتنا، ويسر به عسرنا، وبيض به وجوهنا، وفك به أسرنا، وانجح به طلبتنا، وانجز به مواعيدنا، واستجب به دعوتنا، واعطنا به سؤلنا، وبلغنا به من الدنيا والآخرة آمالنا، واعطنا به فوق رغبتنا يا خير المسؤولين، يا خير المسؤولين، يا خير المسؤولين، وأوسع المعطين. اشفي به صدورنا، واذهب به غيظ قلوبنا، واهدنا به لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك، إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. وانصرنا به على عدوك وعدونا إله الحق. آمين. اللهم إنا نشكو إليك فقد نبينا صلواتك عليه وآله، وغيبة ولينا، وكثرة عدونا، وقلة عددنا، وشدة الفتن بنا، وتظاهر الزمان علينا. فصل على محمد وآله، وأعنا على ذلك بفتح منك تعجله، وبضر تكشفه، ونصر تعزه، وسلطان حق تظهره، ورحمة منك تجللناها، وعافية منك تلبسناها، برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى اللهم على محمد وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.
Inshallah, we will begin the Amal now. So if everyone can please grab a Quran and a turba, we will be starting the Amal now. Salawat.